Every Thursday night, families gathered to watch monsters who acted more human than most sitcom families. The Munsters showed us laughter behind the cobwebs. Here are 15 small details you missed in the Munsters. Detail 15. The show was shot in black and white to save money.
I was just trying to...
Watch it! Don't stand up!
The original pilot episode of The Munsters was actually filmed in color back in 1964. You could see Herman's green complexion, Lily's purple gowns, and all the vibrant details of 1313 Mockingbird Lane in full color. But when CBS picked up the series, the studio made a cost-cutting decision that would define the show's entire look and feel. They chose to film all subsequent episodes in black and white to save $10,000 per episode. That might not sound like much by today's standards, but in the mid-1960s, color television production was significantly more expensive. The equipment cost more, the film stock cost more, and the entire production process took longer. The studio simply didn't want to spend the extra money on what they viewed as a risky concept about a family of friendly monsters. Ironically, this budget decision turned out to be perfect for the show. The black and white filming gave the Munsters a classic universal horror movie aesthetic that made the monsters look authentic and added to the spooky atmosphere. It connected the show visually to the old Frankenstein and Dracula films from the 1930s and 1940s that had inspired the characters. Those classic monster movies had all been filmed in black and white, and the Munsters inherited that same moody, atmospheric look. If the show had been filmed in bright, vibrant color, it might have looked too cheerful and lost that deliciously creepy edge that made it special. The shadows, the gothic architecture of the house, and the monster makeup all worked better in black and white. Color might have exposed too much of the artifice and made everything look fake or cartoonish. Instead, black and white gave the show an artistic quality that has helped it age remarkably well over the decades. Detail 14. Fred Gwynne lost up to 10 pounds a day from the heat.
He has an announcement to make.
Oh, wonderful. I'll bet your new set of fangs.
Playing Herman Munster wasn't just uncomfortable for Fred Gwynne, it was physically grueling in ways that viewers never saw or imagined. The Herman costume consisted of 40 to 50 pounds of padding that covered Gwynne's entire body, heavy makeup that took hours to apply, and special asphalt spreader boots with 5-inch lifts that brought Gwynne's height from his natural 6 feet 5 inches to nearly 7 feet tall. Those platform boots made it difficult for him to walk normally, forcing him to move carefully to avoid stumbling. All of that padding and makeup trapped heat against his body like insulation. Under the blazing hot studio lights required for filming in the 1960s, Gwynne would sweat profusely throughout each shooting day. He reportedly lost up to 10 pounds in a single day of filming due to the intense heat and perspiration. Between takes, a stagehand would shoot compressed air up Gwynne's sleeves with an air compressor to give him some relief from the oppressive heat. Even with this help, the costume remained brutally uncomfortable. Gwynne himself described the physical challenge to reporters, saying, "You try doing comedy in all this, with lights blazing and sweat pouring down your neck." Despite the misery, he had to deliver comedic performances that looked effortless and fun. He couldn't let the audience see him suffering or struggling with the weight and heat. He had to make Herman seem light on his feet, childlike and innocent. The Munsters filmed Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday each week, giving Gwynne 4 days to recover between shooting schedules. Even with that recovery time, it was an exhausting job that took a real toll on his body over 2 seasons and 70 episodes. The physical demands of playing Herman were relentless. Detail 13. Herman's face was painted bright violet.
Fiddlesticks! Give me...
When you watch the Munsters on your television screen at home, Herman's face appeared to be a pale grayish-green color, perfect for a Frankenstein-like monster. But if you had visited the set and seen Fred Gwynne between takes, walking around the soundstage or sitting in his chair, you would have been shocked by what you saw. His face was actually painted a bright, vivid violet. This wasn't a mistake or some wild artistic choice by an eccentric makeup artist. It was pure technical necessity for black and white filming in the television industry of the 1960s. The makeup artist discovered through testing and experience that bright violet makeup captured and reflected the most light under the black and white cameras and studio lighting systems used during that era. When filmed in black and white, that violet paint transformed perfectly into the pale grayish tone that viewers expected to see on Herman's face. Other colors simply didn't photograph as well under those conditions. If they had used actual gray or green paint, it would have appeared too dark or muddy on camera. The violet was the secret ingredient that made Herman look just right on screen. This same technical principle was used extensively in classic black and white films from Hollywood's golden age. Makeup artists had long known these tricks of light and shadow. It's one of those behind-the-scenes secrets that television crews understood, but audiences never suspected. If The Munsters had ever been filmed in color during its original run, Herman would have looked completely wrong with his purple face walking around the set. The illusion only worked in black and white. Detail 12. Fred Gwynne's makeup took 3 hours every day.
Childish, idiotic, and utterly fantastic. When can you start?
Every single day of filming, Fred Gwynne had to arrive at the studio hours before everyone else. The transformation into Herman Munster required a full 3-hour makeup application process. Makeup artists had to apply prosthetic pieces to his face, including the distinctive forehead ridge and flat top head that gave Herman his Frankenstein appearance. They had to carefully blend all the pieces together so the seams wouldn't show on camera. Then came the bright violet paint covering his entire face and neck, followed by detail work to add shadows and definition. Gwynne also had to put on the heavy padded costume that added 40 to 50 pounds to his frame, plus the special platform boots. By the time he was ready to film, he'd been sitting in the makeup chair for hours. At the end of each shooting day, the whole process had to be reversed. The makeup had to be carefully removed without damaging Gwynne's skin. It was a daily ritual that the actor endured for 2 full seasons and 70 episodes. Despite the ordeal, Gwynne later said he had fond memories of Herman, admitting, "I love old Herman Munster. Much as I try not to, I can't stop liking that fellow." Detail 11. 2 different actresses played Marilyn with no explanation.
And then we got into an argument about whether we should have the top up or whether it should be down.
Sharp-eyed viewers who watched The Munsters from the very beginning might have noticed that Marilyn, the supposedly normal and pretty niece who lived with the monster family, looked slightly different after the first 13 episodes. The role was originally played by Beverly Owen, a brunette actress who wore a blonde wig for the part, but Owen was desperately unhappy in Los Angeles from the moment filming began. She was deeply in love with her boyfriend John Stone, who was a writer and producer working in New York. The couple had been separated by Owen's work commitment to the Munsters, and the distance was tearing her apart emotionally. Owen had agreed to do The Munsters thinking it would flop quickly based on its outlandish premise about a family of monsters living in the suburbs. She figured she'd do a few episodes, the show would get canceled, and she could return to New York to be with the man she loved. But The Munsters became an unexpected hit, and CBS ordered a full season. Owen was trapped in California under contract while John Stone was across the country. She cried constantly on set between takes, missing her fiancé terribly. The other cast members saw how miserable she was and felt genuinely bad for her situation. They asked the producers to release her from her contract so she could return to New York and get married. The producers agreed to let her go. Pat Priest was brought in to replace Owen as Marilyn. Remarkably, Priest looked so similar to Owen that most viewers never realized the switch had happened. Priest was a natural blonde, so she didn't need a wig like Owen had worn. The show never acknowledged the change or explained it to the audience. Marilyn just looked slightly different one week, and the series continued on as if nothing had happened. Beverly Owen did marry John Stone and left acting behind to focus on theater and raising her family. Detail 10. The opening credits parodied The Donna Reed Show.
Good night, Mrs. Morton. Make yourself at home. Oh, and if Eddie's pet, Spotty, comes scratching at the back door...
If you watched television in the early 1960s, you would have immediately recognized what The Munsters was spoofing in its opening credits. The first season opening sequence was an outrageous parody of The Donna Reed Show, which was one of the most popular family sitcoms of the era. The Donna Reed Show always began with Donna Reed lovingly passing out lunches to her departing family members as they left their perfect suburban home one by one. The Munsters copied this exactly, with Yvonne DiCarlo as Lily Munster handing out lunches to Herman, Eddie, and the rest of the family as they left 1313 Mockingbird Lane. The parody was deliberate and perfect. It emphasized emphasized the show's central joke. This family of monsters thought they were completely normal, just like the Donna Reed family. They had the same wholesome family routines and values as any other 1960s sitcom family. They just happened to be Frankenstein's monster, a vampire, a werewolf, and Dracula. The parody helped establish the show's satirical tone right from the opening moments. Detail 9. Yvonne DiCarlo was a major movie star before the Munsters.
That's what I call flair.
By the time Yvonne DiCarlo was cast as Lily Munster in 1964, she had already been a huge Hollywood star for 2 decades. She was 42 years old and had appeared in over 100 films during her long career. Her most famous and prestigious role was playing Sephora, Moses' wife, in the epic 1956 Cecil B. DeMille film The Ten Commandments, one of the biggest and most expensive movies of that entire decade. She starred opposite Charlton Heston in that biblical spectacular, which was seen by millions of people around the world. Before that, she had been a glamorous leading lady in numerous adventure films, westerns, and dramas throughout the 1940s and 1950s. She had danced, acted, and built a reputation as one of Hollywood's most beautiful and versatile actresses. She had even won the title of Miss Venice Beach back in 1938, long before her film career took off. DiCarlo had worked with some of the biggest directors and stars in Hollywood during cinema's golden age, but by the early 1960s, Hollywood had a harsh and unforgiving reality for actresses over 30. Movie roles for women her age had almost completely disappeared from the film industry. The studios wanted younger actresses, preferably women in their 20s. Older actresses found themselves pushed out of leading roles and offered only small supporting parts, if anything at all. DiCarlo made the difficult but practical decision to move her career to television, where she could still find steady work and remain visible to audiences. When she was offered the role of Lily Munster, she took it, knowing it would keep her employed and in the public eye. Some of her co-stars, including Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis, were initially intimidated by her reputation as a Hollywood glamour queen, but she proved to be professional, dedicated to the show, and a team player. DiCarlo continued acting in films occasionally even after the Munsters ended, with her final movie role coming in 1993. Detail 8. Fred Gwynne graduated from Harvard and was president of the Harvard Lampoon.
Excuse me, but I seem to be lost.
You're not lost. This is the place. Get in here.
The man who played the lovable, simple-minded Herman Munster was anything but simple in real life. Fred Gwynne was an intellectual who graduated from Harvard College in 1951. During his time at Harvard, he was extraordinarily accomplished in multiple fields. He drew cartoons for the legendary Harvard Lampoon, the university's humor magazine that has launched the careers of countless comedians and comedy writers. He didn't just contribute to the Lampoon, he became its president. Gwynne also sang with the Harvard Crocodilos, the school's famous a cappella group. He performed in the Hasty Pudding theatricals, Harvard's traditional drag revues that are still performed today. Before attending Harvard, Gwynne had served in the United States Navy during World War II as a radio man on a submarine chaser. After the war, he initially attended art school with dreams of creating covers for the Saturday Evening Post, but found that work wasn't right for him and transferred to Harvard instead. His Harvard education and natural artistic talents made him a cultured, well-rounded person who was capable of much more than playing a monster on television. Friends described him as having a sharp wit and being genuinely funny off camera. Detail 7. Al Lewis was actually younger than his on-screen daughter.
I must have put it in reverse. It's all right, I'll fix it. Hold still.
One of the most surprising casting facts about the Munsters involves the family ages. Al Lewis played Grandpa, the ancient vampire who was Lily's father and claimed to be hundreds of years old. Yvonne DiCarlo played his daughter, Lily Munster. But in real life, the ages were completely backward. Al Lewis was actually 1 year younger than Yvonne DiCarlo. Fred Gwynne, who played Herman, was even younger than both of them. The magic of Hollywood makeup and performance made Lewis completely convincing as the elderly patriarch of the family. He fully committed to playing a man who constantly reminisced about the good old days and behaved like someone far older than his actual years. It's a testament to Lewis's acting ability and the skill of the makeup department that viewers never questioned Grandpa's age. Nobody watching the show would have guessed that the actor playing the ancient vampire grandfather was younger than the actress playing his adult daughter. The age reversal never affected the performances or the family dynamic on screen. Detail 6. The Munster coach and Dragula were built by famous car designer George Barris.
Okay, Eddie. I think we're ready for another compression check.
Right, Pop.
You monitor the exhaust.
The 2 custom cars featured on the Munsters weren't just props thrown together quickly by the studio's prop department. They were genuine custom automobiles built by George Barris, one of the most famous and respected custom car designers in America. Barris was already a legend in the automotive customization world, and he would later go on to build the iconic Batmobile for the 1966 Batman television series, another car that became a pop culture icon. For the Munsters, Barris and his team created 2 very different vehicles, both of which became stars in their own right. The Munster coach was assembled from 3 separate Ford Model T bodies and a stretched 1927 touring car. The resulting vehicle was long, imposing, and perfectly suited to carry the entire Munster family. It became the family's main mode of transportation and appeared regularly throughout the series, often getting laughs just by pulling up to a location. The car had real personality and became almost like another character on the show. The second car, Dragula, was built specifically for Grandpa to drive. This hot rod featured a powerful 289 cubic inch Ford Mustang engine and a body that was shaped like an actual coffin, complete with the traditional coffin shape and styling. It was a brilliant visual gag that perfectly captured Grandpa's personality as a Count Dracula character who loved speed and excitement. Barris retained ownership of both vehicles rather than selling them to the production studio. Instead, he rented them out for use on the show. When the cars weren't needed for filming episodes, he took them to car shows and exhibitions all over the country, where they became huge attractions and drew enormous crowds of fans. Barris had enormous difficulty obtaining a real casket to use as the body for Dragula. He went to several funeral parlors trying to buy one, but the funeral directors refused to sell a casket to anyone who wasn't actually dead. It was against their principles and possibly against regulations. Barris eventually found a broken casket and managed to acquire it through creative means. Both the Munster coach and Dragula became almost as famous as the show itself and remain beloved pieces of television history. Detail 5. Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis rode in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Grandpa, what are you doing hanging around down here?
In 1964, during the first season of The Munsters, Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis received an incredible honor. They were invited to participate in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City, one of the most prestigious and watched events in American television. This was a clear sign that the Munsters had become a cultural phenomenon. The parade organizers didn't invite just anyone. Getting an invitation meant your show or character had captured the imagination of the American public. Gwynne and Lewis rode down the streets of Manhattan in the Munster coach, while crowds of children and families cheered. Gwynne later confessed to TV Guide that he'd been taking slugs from a bottle of whiskey during the entire parade route. He said he had to get bombed just to be able to say hello to the little children for 40 blocks while wearing his full Herman Munster makeup and costume. The parade appearance helped cement the Munsters in American pop culture and showed just how popular the show had become in its first few months on the air. Detail 4. The show was canceled because of Batman.
Nobody's home. What if this place is deserted?
The Munsters ran for 2 seasons from September 1964 to May 1966, producing 70 episodes total. During those 2 years, the show had solid ratings and had built a devoted fan base of all ages. CBS was seriously considering renewing it for a 3rd season. The cast and crew expected to come back for another year. But then ABC launched a new show in January 1966 that changed everything and altered the course of television history. Batman, the campy, colorful Batman series starring Adam West, became an instant cultural sensation unlike anything television had seen. It aired twice a week on Wednesday and Thursday nights and completely dominated the ratings. Children rushed home from school to watch it. Adults watched it ironically, enjoying the camp and the over-the-top performances. Everyone was talking about Batman. The show became a phenomenon that swept the nation. The Munsters, which aired on Thursday nights at 7:30, suddenly found itself competing directly directly against Batman's overwhelming popularity and cultural momentum. Children and families who had been loyal Munsters viewers for 2 years started watching Batman instead. The ratings for the Munsters dropped dramatically to a series low. Week after week, the numbers continued to fall as Batman continued to rise. CBS looked at the declining ratings and made the business decision to cancel the show. Butch Patrick, who played young Eddie Munster, later reflected on what happened, saying, "I think Batman was to blame. Batman just came along and took our ratings away. It was a case of terrible timing and bad luck for the Munsters. If Batman had never premiered, or if it had aired on a different night, or even a different network, the Munsters might have continued for several more seasons. The show still had creative energy and story potential. Instead, it ended abruptly just as Batman mania was sweeping across America and changing what audiences wanted from their television entertainment." Detail 3. The show created merchandise that's now worth a fortune.
All the street lights in the city by remote control.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
The Munsters became so popular during its 2-season run that it spawned an enormous amount of merchandise that filled toy stores and department stores across America. The friendly monster family that kids had grown to love appeared on board games, coloring books, t-shirts, trading cards, trivia games, dolls, lunchboxes, puzzles, Halloween costumes, and even detailed scale replicas of the Munster house at 1313 Mockingbird Lane. Children begged their parents for Munsters toys for birthdays and Christmas. Herman and Grandpa dolls were particularly popular with young fans. Mattel, one of the biggest toy companies in America, issued talking Herman Munster dolls and hand puppets that used Fred Gwynne's actual voice recorded for the toys. Kids could pull a ring on the doll's back and hear Herman speak his catchphrases and sayings from the show. It was cutting-edge toy technology for the mid-1960s. The toys and games were manufactured in limited quantities during the show's brief run from 1964 to 1966. Once the show was canceled and left the air, production of new merchandise stopped almost immediately. Nowadays, original Munsters merchandise from that era commands extremely high prices from serious collectors across the country. Mint-condition dolls, games, lunchboxes, and other items can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars at auctions and through specialty dealers. Only a limited number of these products were ever manufactured to begin with, and many were played with heavily by children and eventually destroyed, thrown away, or lost over the decades. This makes surviving items in good condition quite rare and valuable. Collectors search estate sales, antique shops, and online marketplaces, hoping to find pristine examples of these nostalgic treasures from the 1960s. Detail 2. Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis had already worked together on another show.
Would you hand me that eyebrow tweezer?
Never mind.
When they get bushy, it takes all the character out of your eyes.
Francis, stop this.
The wonderful chemistry between Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis as Herman and Grandpa wasn't accidental. The two actors had already spent 2 years working together and developing their comedic timing. Before the Munsters, they had co-starred as police officers on the sitcom Car 54, Where Are You? From 1961 to 1963. Gwynne played Officer Francis Muldoon and Lewis played Officer Leo Schnauzer. They learned how to play off each other during those 2 years, discovering their natural rhythm as a comedy team. When they were cast together again in the Munsters, they already had that foundation of professional partnership and friendship. They knew each other's comedic instincts and timing. This made their performances as Herman and Grandpa feel natural and lived in from the very first episode. Off camera, the two men became close, lifelong friends. Their friendship extended far beyond their time on television together. When Al Lewis later opened a restaurant in Greenwich Village called Grandpa's Bella Gente, Fred Gwynne even drew the logo for the restaurant, which featured a profile of Lewis in his Grandpa Munster costume. Detail 1. The creators were the same team behind Leave It to Beaver.
Isabella,
Eddie, don't scratch it.
But it itches. I think there's a hunk of bacon in there from breakfast.
The Munsters was created by the writing and producing team of Joe Connolly and Bob Mosher, the exact same duo who had created Leave It to Beaver, one of the most wholesome, gentle, and beloved family sitcoms in American television history. On the surface, this might seem like an odd pairing. What did Munsters have to do with the Cleaver family and their innocent suburban adventures? But Connolly and Mosher had a specific creative philosophy that connected both shows in fundamental ways. Their motto while making Leave It to Beaver had been simple: write what you know. Between them, they had 6 children of their own, and they based many of their most memorable plots on real situations from their own family lives. They understood the rhythms of family life, the small conflicts between parents and children, and the gentle lessons that could be taught through comedy. They used this exact same approach when creating the Munsters. They wanted to make a show about a suburban blue-collar family dealing with everyday problems like paying bills, raising a child, dealing with nosy neighbors, and trying to fit into society. The twist was that this particular family just happened to be monsters. Herman was Frankenstein's monster, Lily was a vampire, Eddie was a werewolf, and Grandpa was Count Dracula himself. But underneath the monster makeup and the gothic mansion, they were just a normal family trying to get by. Connolly and Mosher deliberately didn't want to frighten children the way the old Universal horror movies like Frankenstein and Dracula had scared kids during Saturday afternoon creature features on television. So they made Herman a typical working father who carried a lunchbox to his job at Gateman, Goodberry, and Graves' funeral parlor every day. They made the Munsters loving, supportive, and relatable. The monsters had the same values and dealt with the same everyday situations as the Cleaver family from Leave It to Beaver. This thoughtful approach made the Munsters both funny and heartwarming. It proved that these experienced creators understood exactly what they were doing and knew how to make a monster sitcom work for family audiences. The Munsters gave us 2 seasons of ghoulish fun, but the real magic was in the talented people who brought 1313 Mockingbird Lane to life. From Fred Gwynne sweating under pounds of makeup to George Barris building custom monster cars, from the creators of Leave It to Beaver to a Harvard-educated actor playing a lovable monster, the show was built by dedicated professionals who cared about making something special. The Munsters may have been monsters, but they taught us that families come in all shapes, sizes, and shades of violet. If you enjoyed learning these details about the Munsters, please like and subscribe for more classic TV content.